You got a new phone? We afford that?
Hey, 1 sec. Foggy, I'll see you tomorrow.
It's a girl, isn't it? You got a new phone just for your girls. My life sucks.
Get home safe.
As you may have ascertained from my 2 comic videos to date, one of which was devoted to the character exclusively, I kinda dig Daredevil. The reasons for which I touched on, or perhaps more accurately, shamelessly fondled in my top 10 Daredevil stories video, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend you view before watching this. The Daredevil comic at its best, i.e. when it isn't being written by Mark Waid, is a seamless fusion of 40s pulp, 70s martial arts flick, crime drama, vigilante fiction, and yes, full-blown film noir, a genre that if you acquainted yourself with my recommended noir series of articles on my website, is obviously one I nourish more than a passing erection for. And that really is the extant question here. Could Marvel Studios, and perhaps more worryingly their parent company of Disney, properly evoke the street-level, prostitute-slapping, shotgun-toting, ninja-slaughtering savagery of the great Frank Miller's definitive version of Daredevil? For once, I shall embrace breviloquence and say simply yes, yes, and fuck yes. So, here's how shit's gonna go down here, folks. I'll first give a brief spoiler-free accounting of the overall quality of the program in question, a few minutes after which we will progress with the plot-specific critique that will obviously entail overt spoilers, at which point I will instruct those wishing not to have their cornflakes pissed in to please excuse themselves from the video, and if you fall into that category, may I proffer a simple item of advice, folks? Until you've completed this series, please do yourself a favor, binge the fuck out of this show in a day or two, and in the meantime, avoid social media like Movie Bob avoids social interaction. Just Howard Hughes the fuck out for a couple of days while you tackle this shit. You'll thank me later. I myself made the mortal error of failing to enforce a strict social media sequester, and consequently had all but one major plot point spoiled for me. This show is the hottest shit going, and it is a near impossibility to avoid spoilers in any form on the internet right now, so take precautions accordingly. So Daredevil, how do I love thee? Well, let me count the ways, folks. Doling out vigilante vengeance, hard-boiled film noir detective drama, and street-level drug trade, not at all dissimilar from The Wire in equal measure, what emerges is a show that, for all its perfectly valid comparisons to The Dark Knight, frankly surpasses it. And I don't make that claim arbitrarily. I really enjoyed The Dark Knight, but Daredevil succeeds where The Dark Knight stumbled by virtue of the fact that it has roughly 13 hours within which to intimately explore every facet of each of its multifarious themes. We don't have one scene vaguely alluding to the toll Bruce Wayne's extra-legal activities exacts on his fragile psyche. We can instead witness the gradual physical and mental deterioration of Matt Murdock and place each within its appropriate context. With stellar one-cut fight scenes already being compared to the finest efforts in film, it'd be easier for them to devolve into crouching kingpin hidden plot, a purely stylistic exercise devoid of context or repercussion, but not in fucking Daredevil. Every punch lands with a sickening impact. You hear it on at least one occasion, see the snapping of bone and the spraying of blood, and for the most part, these effects are all rendered in camera. I stand fucking awestruck by the lack of CGI in this show, full stop. And on the story front, can I just defend The Wire comparisons for a moment? With parallels visually and narratively obvious, journalists and viewers began drawing parallels between this and HBO's seminal narcotic melodrama almost immediately, and nearly as immediate were Wire fanboys eager to discredit the very presumption. This is just a cape show, they bellowed. It's not worthy. It's a great show, but just calm down. The implication being that the omnipresent hype tornado had blown the fuck through town, out of control. Well, look, I've watched Daredevil 3 times now, and, shit. I've watched The Wire literally dozens, and I'll say it to your face or anyone else's. The comparisons are perfectly apt. Both shows deal heavily with corporate collusion and its relation to the drug trade, the cost of unchecked crime on a community and its police force, and the unintended adverse consequences of one man taking the position to try and change any of the above.
No matter what I do, I'm making things worse.
Both shows have a protagonist who does good things and eventually has to admit to himself that he's doing it for the wrong reasons.
Tell me something, Jimmy. How exactly do you think it all ends?
What do you mean?
A parade? golden watch, a shining Jimmy McNulty Day moment. When you bring in a case so sweet, everybody gets together and says, oh, shit, he was right all along. We should have listened to the man. The job will not save you, Jimmy.
Men have used the atrocities of their enemies to justify their own throughout history. So the question you have to ask yourself is, are you struggling with the fact that you don't want to kill this man, but have to? Or that you don't have to kill him, but want to?
Daredevil isn't The Wire of superhero television, because if you tore away all the capes, combat, and ninjas, what you'd still be left with would be a crime drama absolutely worthy of standing in the same company as The Wire. To deny that any other program can be called excellent in The Wire's company is itself the very apotheosis of hype. Superb crime show? Sure. Stunning deconstructive procedural? Absolutely. But is The Wire the greatest television show in history? What? Did David Milch join the writing staff while I wasn't looking? I'm afraid that honor goes to Deadwood.
Welcome to fucking Deadwood.
It's a cliche of the highest order to describe the setting as an unofficial character, but occasionally cliches are there for a reason. For all contemporary proclamations by everyone from newspaper pundits to soapboxing sitcom writers that the Disney Channel sent the seedier side of New York off to politically correct gulags.
He said that Times Square just keeps getting cleaner and cleaner. They didn't stumble upon one prostitute the whole night.
Oh yeah, I heard the Disney company had them all killed.
Uncut China White irony is it that arguably the first televised evocation of Hell's Kitchen's former disrepute comes from none other than the Disney Corporation. How good is Daredevil? Well, I can confide that I've scoured the internet for any and all reviews, and to date I have located just 2 that can be accurately described as negative, one of which, upon further reading, errs more on the side of average. In an age where every snarky Portland pissant with a 10-cent trilby and a 5 o'clock shadow has a blog telling you everything you like eats a dick, that's an accomplishment of considerable proportion. Far and away the worst offender in this regard is Devin Ferrasi of Badass Digest glorified fucking hit piece, featuring such well-articulated grievances as why isn't this show just a case of the week lawyer drama, and this series, comprised of 13 episodes, is too long. Break the Prozac in half next time, asshat. Devin Ferrazi's head is jammed so impossibly far up his own ass his duodenum is discussing timeshare packages. Your review was so bafflingly off the mark you almost became Badass Digest. This show is superb and I love it. It's a shockingly addictive detective show, a surprisingly compelling courtroom drama, and without question the most passionately crafted superhero adaptation made to this point. A veritable love letter to the glory days of Frank Miller, Ann Nocenti, Denny O'Neil, Brian Michael Bendis, and Ed Brubaker. Watch this show. And now to the spoilers. If you haven't yet watched Daredevil or nourished the suspicion that you may, in the immortal words of Manowar, leave the hall. You've been warned, so the first asshat I see in the comments crying about spoilers gets a complimentary second asshole. Perhaps one of the most stubborn and repeatedly voicing complaints I've read is that Daredevil isn't quite fighting like Daredevil, and Kingpin isn't behaving like Kingpin. Well, folks, that's because Season 1 is the story of those two characters becoming their respective namesake. Every line of dialogue, and perhaps most impressively, every visual cue is specifically crafted to impart this to the viewer. For example, the first moment Kingpin is introduced in, I think it's episode 3, he's staring at a white painting that looks not unlike a spackled wall. White is the color of innocence, and innocence he lost when he murdered his father. Also, rather importantly, his father sat him in front of a white wall of their apartment and told him to
think of the man you want to be. You sit here and you stare at that wall, and you think about that. You're my son. You should be a king, not some fat little pussy.
Just moments before Wilson murdered him in cold blood. Kingpin wears black at the outset, the color of sin. In one particularly poignant scene, Kingpin is distraught over his crumbling crime empire. Vanessa meets him. Sure enough, she's wearing white. Not because she is innocent and pure, because the bitch certainly fucking isn't. Nor, might I add, is she innocent in the comics, for the record, but because his intentions toward her are perfectly innocent and pure. After stealing his resolve to refashion his empire, she picks out a suit for him and it's gray. Literally, she has turned him a shade lighter. The final shot of the series is Fisk in prison, not wearing orange, but the iconic white from the comics. He has, in short, become the Kingpin. Just one of dozens of examples of the series' staggering attention to visual detail. At the beginning of the series, Kingpin feels alone.
How does it make you feel?
It makes me feel alone.
And Daredevil is alone, the reasons for which are explored in my personal favorite episode of the series, Episode 7, Stick.
Do you have friends? People you care about?
Yeah, 2.
Cut them loose for their sake. Break their hearts if you have to. Just do it quick.
I'm not gonna do that.
Then they will suffer and you will die.
Daredevil kind of starts off alone and learns throughout the course of season 1 that he really doesn't need to be alone. Kingpin starts off with a collective of like-minded criminals and learns that he can only ever afford to be alone. It's just some of the finest writing I've ever witnessed in a television program, never mind superhero show. To me, anyways, there's only one thing I would change if I had the power, and it comes in, of all places, again, my single favorite episode of the series, that being Episode 7, the sort of soft origin story entitled Stick. Look, I love this episode. Scott Glenn is pitch perfect as Daredevil's blind sensei Stick.
Yeah, I've learned a lot since you've been gone.
Like what?
You're a dick.
That's true.
And it's full-on cathartic after enduring the goofy 2003 film origin to finally see a version that, for the most part, reflects the comics. That said, why in the fuck did Matt never get revenge on the Fixer and his thugs for murdering his father? It's in every origin, from Stan Lee's original, to Daredevil Yellow, to the Daredevil Bible that is Man Without Fear, but simple adherence to the source material isn't the only reason it should have been included, folks. It's needed because it's the moment where Matt Murdock decides he can't afford to kill. It's what separates Daredevil from the Punisher. As per the Man Without Fear origin, Matt abuses Stick's training and uses it against the Fixer, taking down the entire organization one man at a time, even though he's probably the ripe age of 12. But then, just as he corners the last man, he ducks into a brothel where the women dogpile on him. He accidentally knocks one of the women out of a window, and she dies inadvertently. He returns to the gym to tell Stick what he's done, but he's gone. Stick doesn't abandon Matt over some goofy ice cream bracelet, folks. He doesn't even abandon him because he killed someone. He abandons him just because he killed for revenge. As he says in the show, he's training Matt to be a warrior for the coming war between the Hand and the Chaste. And warriors keep their emotions in check. From that point on, Stick considers him effectively useless. Look, I still think the TV origin story kind of works, and it's worth noting that they never explicitly say he didn't exact revenge on the Fixer. They simply don't show it. But it's an emotional component that is sorely needed. We established from the outset that Matt doesn't want to murder without once establishing why the fuck that is. And the ill-conceived choice to omit the Fixer subplot is 100% of the reason why. Bad fucking move. And can I just say that I don't get the hate for the Daredevil suit? Actually, scratch that, I do, because there was never once an adaptation of a superhero on TV or on film where belly-aching bitches have been adequately satisfied with the outfit. Just admit it out loud. For fuck's sake, Spider-Man's outfit is basically copied and pasted from the comics, and as we all remember, back in 2002, people still fucking complained en masse. Spider-Man is ribbed for her pleasure. What's with the jersey fabric? I don't know, his balls sweat. It looks like fucking Spider-Man. Granted, this show has taken slightly more artistic license than Spider-Man, but I think it's perfectly fine. And more to the point, there's no reason to believe it won't visually evolve as Season 2 progresses. And can we declare a moratorium on the fucking Power Ranger comparisons for the foreseeable future? Let's establish this one fact in crystal clear fucking English, please. Green Goblin doesn't look like a Power Ranger. The Power Rangers look like superheroes, because that's exactly what Tokusatsu is ripping the fuck off. Don't blame Marvel for your narrow Nihongo-philic frame of reference. Could they cut back on some of the black badges? Sure, it looks like a suit has liver spots, but for the most part, I'm supremely satisfied. But then, I also thought Affleck's outfit was perfectly fine too, so make of that what you will. Either way, unlike Devin Farassi's skull, it isn't carved in fucking granite. It's a show. Shows can change that. That's what's so great about Netflix's Daredevil. That, and everything the fuck else. I'm Razor Fist. God fucking speed.
One rule. You don't kill anybody.
I swear I will not kill anybody. Pussy.